Hello everybody, my name is Luke Hardy and I will be presenting on the results of the article entitled Impact of Language Dominance on Phonetic Transfer in Cantonese English Bilingual Language Switching. If we examine this chart made by the researchers of this study, we can see that overall, voice onset times are significantly longer in English than in Cantonese. The researchers also discovered that overall, the phone K has the longest voice onset time, followed by T, which was followed by P. When looking specifically at Cantonese, it was discovered that the phone K had a significantly larger value for voice onset time than P and T. And P and T didn't have a significant difference in voice onset time values. Now, when we look at English, the voice onset time values for the phones were from largest to smallest, T, K, then P. In both languages, there was a significant interaction between bilingual group and response type. This means that the differences in voice onset times between English and Cantonese stay and switch trials vary among the three bilingual groups. Cantonese dominant speakers had significantly longer voice onset times in Cantonese switch trials than in stay trials. This suggests that when Cantonese dominant speakers switched from English to Cantonese, their voice onset times for Cantonese increased compared to when they stayed speaking Cantonese. However, there was not a significant difference found in Cantonese dominant speakers' voice onset time production for English stay trials nor switch trials. This suggests that there is no obvious effect of language switching in English trials for Cantonese dominant speakers. For English dominant speakers, no significant difference in voice onset times was found between Cantonese stay trials and switch trials. This suggests that English dominant speakers were not susceptible to the effect of language switching in Cantonese trials. However, English dominant speakers produce significantly smaller voice onset times in English switch trials than in stay trials. Now this suggests that when English dominant speakers switched from Cantonese to English, their voice onset times decreased compared to when they stayed in English. This implies that English dominant speakers are susceptible to the effect of language switching only in English trials. However, the balanced bilinguals showed no significant difference in any of the trials, suggesting that they weren't susceptible to the effect of language switching in all cases. So, from this information, we can glean that when a person switches from their non-dominant language to their dominant one, characteristics of the non-dominant language influence their production of their dominant language. In this case, voice onset time. As they stated in the article, the present study confirmed our first hypothesis that unbalanced early bilinguals will show an asymmetrical switch cost of language switching at the phonetic level. So, in other words, they proved that when switching between one's dominant and non-dominant language, a change takes place in their pronunciation, as opposed to if they do not switch between those languages. As with all academic articles, I found this very difficult to read and to decipher. I find it obnoxious that rather than being succinct and clear, researchers tend to use ostentatious language to sound more educated and intelligent, but at the cost of not making their research easily accessible. It took me a very long time to figure out exactly what was being studied and how they did it, and I would have preferred that the information was given in a much more readable way. But looking forward, I think that this study could be continued while studying other variables than onset time. Perhaps they could focus on differences in pronunciation of phonemes when language switching, as opposed to staying in the same language, or perhaps differences in speed of speech production. These are just suggestions of mine. Okay, thank you for listening to this presentation, and here are my references.